Love often takes unexpected twists and turns, but that just makes the story more interesting.
I caught her, and that was it.
Oh my goodness, I think I'm falling in love with this boy.
I told my husband, if you marry me, you're going to laugh for the rest of your life.
Join us as we continue to bring to life the Canadian love stories of romance, family, friends, and community.
Well, love is the most important thing.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Canadian Love Map podcast. And thank you. That's actually the main point of our short episode today, is to express appreciation for you, the listener. We have come to the end of season 9. I can't even believe that. How time flies. And I'm here with Madison, who's done such a great job producing this season. And Madison, it's been like hit after hit. It's just been so wonderful.
It's been such a roller coaster, and like every little inch, nook, and cranny of Canada, I feel like we've covered at least once. It's been so amazing.
You know what the politicians say, coast to coast to coast. We've had Canadians from all walks of life, so many different stories. You know, I'm constantly telling people when I meet them out in the community and they are just learning about the podcast and they say, oh, so it's all like romance stories. And I say, oh, no. We
So much
have
more.
romance. We have, great intergenerational family stories. We have friendships that have changed lives. And to me, that's what makes the podcast, in a way, such a joy, because there's so much variation and we get to talk to so many different kinds of people.
Yeah, no, it's truly been awesome. And to think we started in New Brunswick with episode 1 and we ended up in Costa Rica for the last one. So we really doing it all.
Yes, except we weren't actually in Costa Rica. We
I
just
wish.
wished we were there because, oh my gosh, that story with Steph and Luke was so much fun. So great to hear about their adventure, not only fixing up their motel and changing their lives drastically, but also the idea that they were shooting a TV show while going through the stress of renovation. I
Mhm.
wasn't I wasn't envious of them, I will say that. But I loved hearing their story and I loved witnessing their connection because they have a wonderful love story.
Yes, and yeah, all of the love stories we heard this season were just so unique. We talked to Santa and Mrs. Claus, we talked to social media stars, and every walk of life, I feel like we definitely covered and then some.
And different kinds of love stories like Jess and Waldo. That was amazing. That was episode 9 for anyone who hasn't heard it. This Waldo is a corgi, actually, Jess's dog, and Waldo saved Jess's life. So it was a really special story, and it to me was symbolic of the kind of relationship so many people have with their pet. It's not just this is an animal I own. This is another living thing that I am so deeply connected to. And that story, that said it all, really.
Right? If you could you pick a favorite of the season?
That's like asking me to pick one of my children as my favorite, Madison. How could you do that to me? I will, I was thinking about it before we hopped on here today. I was thinking it's impossible to pick a favorite. There have been so many differences. There have been so many fabulous highlights and so many different ways in which love has shown up in relationships in such a joyful way. You mentioned Santa and Mrs. Claus. That was
Mhm.
a treat. I've never interviewed the couple before. So that was really fun. But I also think a lot about contribution. That's sort of a
Right.
driving force for me at this stage of my life. And I can't help but mention Brogan. She is not the worst cleaner.
Yes,
And
number
that's a funny
11.
statement, but that is actually her name on Instagram and TikTok, not the worst cleaner. And
Mhm.
if you haven't heard my conversation with her, my goodness, she does free house cleanings for people with mental health struggles. And not only does she do this incredibly giving active service, but she also has made an enormous career of it just by sharing what she's doing on social media. So she's now going all the way around the world cleaning people's homes. Isn't that wild?
I loved Brogan's episode. I remember laughing. I remember crying. It was a mixed bag, definitely.
Yeah, and just recently as well, we had Felice and Willow, who were a mother-daughter duo who have found a really special kind of connection through dance. And it's not just a connection to each other, but also to their ancestors. So that to me was very special. I am fascinated and so respectful of our Indigenous communities in Canada and really feel like it's important to share messages from them and learnings from them
Yeah,
and relationships in this case because that's part of reconciliation for one thing,
of
but
course.
secondly we just should because they're fascinating and rich and filled with love often and filled with presence as well. And I think that is true of a lot of the episodes this year, and I'm just so grateful to have the opportunity to talk to people in such an in-depth way and get personal very quickly. Madison, I always joke about this is what I do. I ask personal questions.
Oh, yeah.
But it really is, it's an honor and it's been such a privilege to just talk to everyone this season. And I want to say thank you to you. And why
Aw.
don't you tell us what we're doing while we take a sort of hiatus? We're not going anywhere, but we're going to take a sort of hiatus. Why don't you explain what we're going to do?
So I'm going to be hitting the streets, chatting with people about all things love, love movies, love music, everything to do with love, and getting lots of different live perspectives from people. And we're going to be sharing that throughout the summer, which I think will be such a fun kind of summer thing for the podcast.
You're going to be asking some personal questions
I
face to
will.
face.
I know I can't run.
That's right. Oh my gosh. You better take roses and chocolate with you to bribe people. What do you think?
Yes, right? Yeah,
That
it is.
that's really those are the language of love, aren't they? Roses and chocolate?
So far that's what I've learned.
Well, I've a few more decades under my belt, and I would say so.
Yes.
And then we're back on the air in September with
Yeah.
season 10.
Season
Rock and
10.
roll.
Crazy double digits of spreading love.
Yep, more love stories to really brighten your life. That's what so many listeners have told me that they find, particularly at this heavy time that we're
Mhm.
going through for all sorts of reasons, political, economic, you name it. There's so much
Yeah.
division in the world. And this podcast is all about the opposite of division. It is connection, it is love, it is uplifting because of that. And so we strive to be light in the darkness. And we're really glad that you at home are along for the ride. If you've missed any of the episodes this season or in past seasons, we have 9 seasons for you to choose from. Go back
Wow.
and really there are some true gems of episodes, but also of people. So many treasures, people who have shared with us in beautiful ways. And I even think of, the mother and daughter duo who talked about their project where the mom is facing her end of life journey
Mhm.
and they're working together on a podcast to help other people embrace death
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and not be so scared of it perhaps and also find ways to create conversation with people you love who are leaving.
Yeah. Totally.
That was
And that's
episode 16.
yeah, exactly. And that just goes to show the range of this show. I mean, I just feel like this season alone we've covered so much and it was such a pleasure to be around for this amazing ride.
It has been an amazing year. Thanks for everything you've contributed, Madison. And for everybody at home, thank you so much for the time, your precious time you've given us and shared with us. If you want to show us a little love, feel free to not only catch up on missed episodes, but rate the podcast and leave a comment. That makes such a difference. And then share it with someone you love. We'll see you in September. Thanks so much for listening to the Canadian Love Map. This podcast is presented and made possible by Charm Diamond Centers. It's hosted by me, Nancy Regan, and is produced and distributed by Podstarter. We love sharing love stories of all kinds, and that could include yours. So do you or someone you know have an uplifting tale to tell? Reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram using @CanadianLoveMap or email producer@podstarter.io. We'll be back next week with another love story to add to the map.